Good day, America. From Houston, Texas, I'm Colonel Roy Morales, exposing the truth from City Hall to the state capitol to the White House. On April 21st, 2012, Harris County Republicans and Democrats will be conducting their senatorial conventions. Republicans will be meeting at Grace Community Church on the Gulf Freeway, and Democrats will be meeting within their own senatorial districts. And today, our guest is Mr. Stephen Takach, who's running for United States Congress, District 36, Texas. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back, so don't touch that remote. Welcome back to We the People. We are very fortunate today to our first congressional candidate, and he's a financial advisor, Mr. Stephen Takach. Stephen is running for the new District 36. Stephen, welcome to our program.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I know it's always tough the first time around,
yes.
But are you getting used to it?
I am. I think we're getting used to the schedule, and we've been very busy lately.
Well, why don't we tell the folks a little bit about yourself? You want to share with the audience a little bit about your background?
Okay. Moved to Texas when I was 15 years old. Moved to Liberty, Texas. Graduated in 1980. And then after that, I worked in industry for about 4 years and got laid off a couple of times. Actually, my own brother laid me off, if you can believe that. And I decided I'd go to college at Lamar University and see if I could go a little further with my education.
Well, you know, working with family members sometimes is pretty tough.
I know, he was tough on me.
I could never get my mom to hire me, so...
we still joke about it, but maybe it was a good thing.
Well, I was reading a little bit on your website about your background. I understand you started a business when you were fairly young.
I did. I started a business when I was 20 years old in Liberty. I had an ideal that I would start a vending business, and actually it was video games and equipment like that, and I used that to work my way through college.
Well, and that's good because sometimes a lot of these elected officials never really had a job in their life. Yeah, you got a lot of experience early on.
I do. You know, my wife tells me I have an interesting background for work. I'm glad she didn't tell me it was colorful. We know what that means.
Well, I also noticed something very nice on your website, and it's something that candidates are always asked: why are you running?
Well, I'll tell you why I'm running. I have two beautiful girls at home. They're 6 and 13 years old, and today they owe the federal government $48,000 each. I have lived the American dream. I've been able to start 2 businesses. I've got to marry my sweetheart, but I'll tell you, the future's unclear for them. We have 536 people, including our president, making decisions for everybody in this country. And I'll tell you, Roy, they're just not listening to the people anymore.
Well, and that's what I liked about your website. You know, this program's called about We the People. And that's what really caught my attention, really caught my eye about Stephen Takach, because that's what you put it right there on your website. You're running because of We the People. And a lot of the candidates are out there, they talk a good game, but do they really have the experience for that? So what I want to talk about now is, we talked about why you're running, but what are some of the really top 3 issues that you see that you want to focus on as the representative of District 36?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the #1 issues is we are on a path where our government is taking us off a cliff. 3 years ago, the federal deficit in this country, or the national debt, was $8.5 trillion. Today it's $15.5 trillion, and when you go to vote in November, it will be over $16 trillion. All the time we've been in a recession, a declining economy. You cannot continue to spend money like that. They will bankrupt the country.
Well, and that's the problem we're having right now with this summer, when Republicans had the opportunity to put the brakes on and tell Washington, especially the White House, no more, no more, no more. And we sent a bunch of freshman Republican congressional representatives there, and they let us down. They let us down, the leadership. Even several of the congressional representatives within Harris County or the surrounding areas let us down with that voting to raise the debt ceiling.
Yes.
And that only hurts another very important part that I think is part of your campaign, and that's the economic part. How can we grow as a country privately if the government is spending money so rapidly?
Well, I'll tell you, I think one of the main keys, we're going to need an administration that is pro-business. You know, for the last 3 years, we've had an administration that really has been fighting with business, you know, through the EPA or through regulation, through not letting them drill. And that's not putting people back to work. We need a pro-growth jobs bill in this country that will put our people back to work. But we need a president that's going to take a leadership role of working with business and not fighting with business.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a short break, and I want to come back to a very hot topic.
Okay.
Obamacare.
Okay.
So we're going to come right back. Don't touch that remote. I'm Roy Morales. Welcome back to We the People. I'm Colonel Roy Morales, and today I'm talking about politics with the candidate for U.S. Congress, District 36, Stephen Takach. And Stephen, we're about to touch on a very important issue for this country that's basically going to bankrupt the country, take away rights from individuals, and have IRS agents all over Americans just because they don't have health care. What are we going to do about Obamacare?
Well, I'm hoping the Supreme Court will take care of some of that for us. You know, it looks like they're going to do the right thing, and I'm hoping it will get shot down at that level. If not, we're either going to have to repeal it or defund it, but we have to do something about Obamacare. You know, the American people said overwhelmingly they did not want Obamacare, and the politicians didn't listen. So we need to fix it.
Well, do they ever listen? And that's why you're here, basically.
Yes.
We've got to get somebody to listen to Americans again. And what I want to do right now to let Americans know where they can find out more about you, why don't you tell the audience there what your website is?
Our website is www.stephentakach.com. And you can also look me up on Facebook for Stephen Takach for U.S. Congress.
Do you have a Twitter account?
I do not.
Well, you're still a newcomer. You're getting there.
I'm working on it.
It's a lot of work, trust me. Okay, what I want to talk about now is you've been out working the streets. You've been talking to people in the community. You're part of that community there in Baytown, in Liberty County. Who's backing you?
I will tell you the people are backing me. I will tell you my friends, my people that I work with. I've had a great outpouring from people from church. And I will tell you, it's just the ordinary man coming up to me, telling me they've read my push card, they've got my mail piece, and they feel what I'm saying in my heart.
No, that's good, but what about precinct chairs? Any precinct chairs at this point?
We have some precinct chairs out in Liberty that we've had some positive response from, as well as Baytown and the surrounding communities.
Well, I think individuals should know that this is a big district. And can you briefly describe, we're going to throw a map up on one of our screens here, but can you describe how much territory you got to cover?
I have a lot of ground to cover. We're talking about 9 counties, and about half the districts in Harris County, including Pasadena, LaPorte, Deer Park, all the way to Webster across to Seabrook, picking up Baytown. The other half's going to be Liberty County, Hardin County, Tyler County, all the way to Orange. And that pretty well makes up the district.
Well, you go to the state line, don't you?
Yes, all the way to the border.
Wow, that's a lot of block walking, I know that for sure.
Well, and I'll tell you what I like about that, Roy. I actually lived in Liberty for close to 15 years. I've also lived in Harris County for that long as well. I feel like I understand both areas. I'm an East Texas person and also a Harris County person.
Stephen, speaking about living in Liberty County and Harris County, you have a lot of great accomplishments.
Yes.
Why don't you share that with the audience?
Yeah, we have a huge area to cover. It's about half made up of Harris County voters, and then the other half is East Texas. including Orange County, Hardin County, Tyler County, Chambers County, Liberty County, and then again that piece of Harris.
Right,
9
right.
counties in total.
But what kind of accomplishments can you tell all these voters in all these counties that you're involved with? What have you done? You have expertise as a financial advisor. We talked a little bit about that prior to the show. You've got some great advice for individuals that want to start working on their retirement now, right?
Right.
What do they need to do?
Well, I would tell you, if you're going to retire now, you need to start early. The younger you are, just save a little bit every month, put it in something fairly moderate. The key is start early and have the discipline to save a little bit of money every month. Well,
that's great advice, but people should know that you worked for a few years to build up your clientele. You own your own business. I don't know about the other candidates in this race, but you're out there working door to door on helping people, and you write the checks, you employ people. I think that's very important. For
and let me clarify that. I work for a company called Edward Jones, and I've been with them for 18 years. I am really an employee of Edward Jones, but they basically let me start my own business, run my own business, and I actually started that by knocking on doors to meet people to get them to do business with me.
Well, it sounds like you already know how to knock on doors.
I do.
That's a great advantage on other candidates. And what we're going to do right now is take another short break, and we're going to be right back to talk more about the United States Congress and a candidate running there, and he wants your vote to get there. I'm Roy Morales. Don't touch that remote. Welcome back to We the People. I'm Colonel Roy Morales. Stephen, we've talked a little bit about what you want to do for Congress. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the differences that you've seen in these other candidates? Are they really focusing on the same issues? Do they have the experience?
I think what I bring to the table, I think what everybody wants to know about all of us, you know, I think we're all going to be conservative, Christian people, pro-life people. And I think what I really bring to the table is the financial experience. For the last 30 years, I've either been studying accounting, I've either been working with Edward Jones to help people meet their financial needs. I know how to make a budget, and I know how to stay on budget, and I really believe I bring that to the table. And we may not be in a world war right now, but we're in a war, and it is the debt and the deficit of this country, and we need to address it.
Well, let me ask you this. When you're sitting there in Washington, D.C., in the next legislature, and the president, whoever that president may be, comes and asks you to raise the debt ceiling, how are you going to vote? I want you to tell the voters right now, how are you going to vote on that?
I'll tell the voters right now, if they want to raise that debt ceiling, I need to see immediately cuts drastically to offset whatever they're going to raise that debt ceiling. We cannot continue down this path and just continually add debt to the national debt.
Well, that's a problem there in itself, Stephen, and it is saying, I want to see how you're going to cut the budget, because that's what they did last time. If there's another debt ceiling, they've had over 80 debt ceilings requests, and we don't have a budget going into that. Are you going to vote yes or no? That's what I want to know. Are you going to vote yes or no?
I would vote no to raise the debt ceiling without those cuts I'm talking about.
Okay, but the president's going to come to you and say, well, this is my budget. I need another $1 trillion. Are you going to give it to me?
No.
Great. That's great. I think that's very important to the American public because I believe at the end of the day, if the president comes back, whoever that president may be, and says, well, we're going to have to shut down government, fine. We did that in the 90s. What you do is you shut down and you tell those people that are non-essential, mission essential, stay home for a day or two. We're going to have to balance this budget and make some real cuts. We still send out those Social Security checks, Mr. President, and we send out those retirement checks, and we send out those checks to our military members. I don't want to see, again, threats by a president to scare Americans. If we have to shut it down to get control of our budget, that's what we need done.
Well, and people need to realize just because we don't raise the debt ceiling, the whole government isn't going to shut down. We run the essential needs of the people, Social Security, the military. It doesn't shut down the whole ball of wax.
We did several continuing resolutions when Gingrich was the Speaker of the House during the Clinton era. And we have to do it again to get control of this budget.
Absolutely.
Some of the areas that would help in that budget, for example, we've lost a lot of our liberties over the last few years, and one being something called the Patriot Act. That might have been good in the early days after 9/11.
I think we were afraid and at that time, and maybe needed that at that time.
And now, several years later, I believe it's time to restore our liberty and get back to the Constitution. Let's end what occurred during Abe Lincoln when he tried to shut down everything, should take away our liberties. During FDR, take away our liberties. And again, during this Patriot Act. I just think it's wrong. At this time, we need to make sure that there's no government agency listening to our phone calls, having spy satellites overhead looking at us, checking our GPSs, checking our phones, checking our computers. I think the time is over. But we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about liberty and where we're going to go with this country, Stephen. So you're going to stick around, right?
I am.
Okay.
I'll be here.
But I want you to stick around, too. We're coming right back. I'm Roy Morales. Welcome back to We the People. I'm Colonel Roy Morales, and my guest today is Stephen Takach, who's running for United States Congress, District 36, and we were just talking about the Patriot Act. I want to also touch on one other act. It's called the National Defense Authorization Act, and what that act has done is, again, taken away some of our liberties. When the United States military can go and apprehend a U.S. citizen within the United States based on accusations that individual is a terrorist, and then detain that person indefinitely. I believe if that ever occurs, we've lost our country.
I think they've overstepped their bounds. We have to protect our liberties and our freedoms in this country, and we need to get some of those back. I think part of this is our fault, and what I mean by that, over the years, we've asked the government to do more and more and more, and as we do that, we lose our freedoms. And I think we need to now go back where we do more for ourselves, and as people and as communities, we need to pitch together and do the right things for our community and for ourselves.
Well, and like we said, that what government's doing is more and more and more, and that brings me to my next point. Are there areas within our government that we can start either throttling back or eliminating as well?
Man, I'd have to take a hard look at the EPA. I think they're costing us jobs. I think we have to take a look at the Department of Energy and even the Department of Education. I think all of those can be reworked and revamped, and we can do better than what we're doing. Well,
being a Harris County school trustee, I really believe that we can do more with our money if we keep it within our area, our school districts.
Yes.
Rather than trying to mandate something across all 50 states, across all our school districts, let us decide. We know our children better than everybody else. The ones that really need to be involved with our students, mother, father, grandparents, the child, the teachers, us here, not some bureaucrat back within the Beltway. We just don't need them. And the EPA, I believe you're so right there, because your district covers a lot of the petrochemical areas within the energy capital of the world.
Yes.
And we need to tell those guys to pack their bags, go home, and don't come back. Do you agree?
If it were that easy, yeah.
I like to be just upfront and brutal with these people, but I think you're on the right track. Any other departments that you'd like to see we cut back on? Or?
Well, I really believe over the years the IRS has gotten too much power. They've grown too big, and I really believe, you know, it's right now with the IRS, you're guilty till you can prove you're innocent.
Well,
and I just don't know how that's happened. I mean, that sends you something in the mail and it says you owe this much money, and if you can't prove it, you're guilty.
Well,
so.
Yeah, there's it definitely is no habeas corpus there. But would you vote to audit the Federal Reserve?
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
The next step would let's. They're not really part of the government. They should go home too, back to England. So another central bank. We can talk about that another topic. But we had two presidents that got rid of central banks. we need another president to do with this Federal Reserve.
The question is, Roy, if we audited the Federal Reserve, would they let anybody read the report? You know, it's one of those reports, you read it after it's, after it's passed.
Well, exactly.
So I'm not sure they'd let you read it.
Well, it's after the fact.
Yeah.
What can we do?
Yeah.
We have to be able to prevent something in the future. But it was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you can come back. I know we only have a few weeks left. And you got to be out there knocking on doors, shaking hands,
Absolutely.
asking for money, get signs out there. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break. I'll be right back. I'm Colonel Roy Morales, and this is We the People. Welcome back to We the People. I'm Roy Morales with U.S. Congressional candidate Stephen Takach. During our break, Stephen, we're just talking a little bit about your daughter and what a patriot she is.
Yeah.
You want to share that story with the audience?
I do. I'd love to. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and her name's Rebecca. And the other night, I was in bed working on some stuff, and she brought me this picture that she colored for me that day. Of course, she hears politics and what's going on in the house, but she colored this picture, brought it back to me, and she says, "Dad, this picture's for you." And I said, "Well, thank you, dear. I appreciate it." And then she began to walk away, and she said, "Dad, if you want to, you can take this picture to President Obama." So I chuckled a little bit, but then as I sat there and read the picture, I looked at the words on it, and the 3 words are freedom, liberty, and faith. And I'll tell you, those words just resonated in my heart. If I'm going to be a congressman, I have to embrace these 3 words. My 6-year-old is teaching me how to run and how to become a better politician or a better representative of the people. Not only should I embrace these words, but I'll tell you, Roy, our president ought to embrace these 3 words.
Well, I don't think our president knows how to spell freedom, liberty, or faith.
I'm not going to comment on that.
I can. I'm a host. And I used to be a candidate, and I would have done it then, too. But, Stephen, again, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. I wish you the best. This is Roy Morales. Don't forget, early voting starts May 14th and ends on May 25th. Election Day is May 29th. From Houston, Texas, protecting and defending our Constitution and liberties, God bless Texas and God bless America.